Welcome to another episode of Management Unfiltered. I am Kirk, Teachout.
And I'm Shelley. And today we are going to talk about a system of change. We talked about expectations, what that looks like, and clear as kind, and all the fun stuff in the previous episode that we recorded. But then we started talking about what does the system of change actually look like, and how do we implement change in the practice? Because, we all can agree nobody really likes change, Kirk, right?
I mean, I love change, but yes, none of my team members love change.
Yeah, I guess that's a broad statement. Like change is good when you're a good leader. We love to see change, obviously in the positive way, right? Especially like metrics and all that fun stuff, the change and growth. People associate change with negativity, I guess is the point I'm trying to say. So like, how do we make a system of change to where people don't see it as negative and don't want to bow out because they feel like it's just going to not work, right? Like, because everybody's like, yeah, we're going to change it in 2 weeks. It's going to go back the way it was. Like, how do we break that mindset?
Yeah, I think if we have a very clear, like sometimes it really depends. Like there's so many scenarios, right? But with big change, really sitting down and being clear on what that path looks like. Because most of the time, I think people are averse to change because the fear of the unknown, right? They don't know what is happening or what could happen, and we all know that there are problems that will happen, like in that process, and it will be frustrating. It will be tough sometimes, but if you can lay out like, hey, this is the goal, here's a way that we can get there, and it will change, but this is the path that I think that will be the best, course of action to get to that goal. And I know, and just verbalizing too is like, hey, I know there will be tough times, but if you stick with me, we'll get to that place together, and I'm here for you. I'm here to help you. You're not here on an island by yourself doing this. I will help you as much as I can.
And I think you made a point that made me think about like, docs, you're really good at doing this, and this is not a compliment. You're really good at making changes, but you don't know where you're going. You don't have a clear path defined. You are changing in the moment. You're creating change because of singular event. You're creating change because you want something here and now. But a lot of the system of change, why we call it system of change, is because what does system mean? Like there's a process to it. You can't just fly by the seat of your pants and be like, that didn't work for this patient. We're making a change for the whole practice. You don't know where you're going. And it's like Mater in Cars, right? He says, you don't know where you're going because you don't know where you've been. As funny as that sounds for a kid's movie, like that's so true. You have to have a clear defined path of where you're going in order to make that system of change effectively. We can make change all day long. Your team's probably going to hate it. You're probably going to be miserable. Things aren't going to work how you want them to work because you can't just flippantly do it. Like you have to be methodical about it. And like Kirk said, you have to vocalize like, what is the end point of what we're doing? Like if you say, hey, we're going to be changing the schedule. Why? Well, I want to change the schedule because I notice my production's not hitting goal every day. So we're going to put in a system in order for us to be able to hit the goal, and everybody knows the limitations and the patterns and the system that goes into it and the allowances on this time and the allowances on that time. And I'm speaking Kirk's love language of the schedule. I try to do that and make him smile because I listened to him. He did that training in our practice and it worked really well. And I loved it because now you know you control your schedule. You're confident with it. That brings your team together even better. Change can be good, but it's how we treat the change. It's what our mindset is going into the change. And you as a leader, office managers, or docs, if you don't have an office manager. But if you do, it should be doc and manager working together for this change. Like it's you both should have the same expectation moving forward of why we're making this change.
Yeah, and you need to start again with yourself, right? You need to be able to. So the system really needs to start with you getting clear on what you want. Is I think that's a problem a lot of times. Like you were saying, is like we don't know what we want, and so therefore we don't have clarity on the end goal. We're just like, oh, well, this sucks, so we need to change it.
And I'm going to pause you really quick. Sorry, Kirk. I don't want to cut you off, but I want to pause you because you said we don't know what we want. I think we know what we want in a shallow manner. Like docs are like, I want to produce more. But like that's so vague and bland.
What do you want to produce?
Yes. Yeah. What do you want to produce? What do you want to do more? Like dig into that deeper. Like when I was asked this question from Eric Roman, he's like, who are you? And a lot of people are like, well, I'm Zach Shelley. He's like, no, who are you? What defines you? You have to dig into these things of what you want deeper. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but like that was, I think, really important for the group to understand.
I agree. I agree. I had the same talk. I was working with a practice and I'm working with their associates individually right now, asking them because he was just like, hey, like I want them to be successful. I want them to be able to produce more. You know, how can we get them there? So I just started with, hey, like, what is your personal revenue goal? What do you want to bring home?
$1 million.
Yes, $1 million. But seriously, like what is a goal of yours? And he was like, you know, I would love me and my wife are wanting to start a family soon. We want to buy a house. We're renting right now. I'm like, cool. So you're in this area. Your home is going to be around maybe $600,000 in that area for a medium sized home. I know a bank will only lend up to 25% of your revenue. So how do we do that? So you need to be producing $300,000 a year, and with your contract level of 32%, that means it's this number, right? So you just reverse engineer it and try to figure it out. So when you're trying to figure out what your change is, you got to figure out where you want to go. Sometimes it can be a little vague, but still get as much clarity as possible. Especially as entrepreneurs, it's tough sometimes. Like, I know we want to do this. I just don't know what that looks like. So now we're just going to kind of aim for a moving target. So there are times where it's a little more challenging. Most of the time, you can figure out a goal if you go a little deeper, like you were saying, and then just reverse engineer it to get clarity. Then verbalize it to your team. Have a meeting with them and just be like, hey guys, I've noticed this problem. I've noticed this. I know you guys have probably felt it too. It's not typically all on you, and you know, but nobody else does. Most of the time they feel it too. Alleviating a problem and you have a solution, which is this goal. You've reverse engineered it to be like, okay, cool. This is what we need to do to make this work. And if you don't understand how to get there or you're having problems and struggling, reach out to me or Zach. We've gone through 1 million of these things. That's our job.
I had to withhold volunteering you.
Yes, you're volunteering me again. That's fine. Because I'm really passionate about doing this, and I have a mechanical mind, and I love being able to really break things down on a granular level. But I also I have a very odd brain being from the music industry. So like I have a creative mind, but I also have a business mind. Huge brain. Once again, people, you got to get on the YouTubes. You got to watch these. These are hilarious sometimes.
I think that's important to make a point though, Kirk, like being able to verbalize it in a different way. Like you and I, we have very similar mindsets, but we also communicate things differently. And I love to use the power of communication and words and language to give it to the team members in a different way. They're like, oh, I didn't think about verbalizing it that way. And just like getting your team to know where you're wanting to go. A lot of times, if you ask, I could probably audit and walk into 50 practices and say, do you know the direction your practice is going? I can guarantee you over 90% be like, I have no idea. Like what the plans are for the practice, where we're going, what the goals are. They don't have any idea. And that's hard to work in. And that's a major part of like why we've made dentistry so hard. I was talking to our nitrous guy yesterday, and he was certifying, our flow meters and everything, our maintenance. And we were talking and he's like asking a few questions. I was like, well, we've done it to ourselves. Like we've caused all these problems. It's not news to us, but we've accepted that that's the problem and we don't move on with it because we don't want the change.
You have to want it.
You do.
Yeah, you can't just verbalize, oh, well, we need a change.
So office managers, when you are listening to this and you notice that there's a change, you have the full ability. And if you don't, you need to just take the bull by the horns and do it because you're not going to get fired for this. And if a doctor fires you for this, come see me. please, I will find a job for you. Go to your doctor and say, hey, doc, I've noticed this pattern in the practice, and it is not the direction that I feel we need to go. Do you agree with that? And stop and let them answer. If they agree with it, move on with that conversation and say, these are the changes I believe we need to make. This is what I'm advising, but I would love to sit down and have a deeper conversation so we can come up with a game plan of how to move forward with the practice. Because I believe that this will, in turn, produce more for the practice and you will bring more home on the bottom line. I don't know a single doctor that would be like, get out of my office. You are taking ownership of that practice and saying, hey, I want to make you more money, doc. Because ultimately that's your job. But take it, see it, have action with that. But you also have to know, like, you can't just be like, hey, doc, I think we should change some things. Like, this could be really cool. Like, no, be intentional about it. Know what you're talking about. Don't do it in an aspect that you're not knowledgeable or have the backing behind of what you're trying to do. But leave it open and saying, doc, like, I'd love to hear your input and see how we can come together and come up with a game plan. Like, you can't just do it like nonchalantly.
Maybe cool.
Yeah, maybe cool, bro.
See what happens,
Far
dude.
Out. Guys, we have too much fun on this podcast, and we record either super early in the morning till midnight. There's a few episodes you guys won't even know because we just have lights on behind us. But like for me, it's 7:30. It's 6:30 in the morning for Kirk still. I'm getting ready to start morning huddle in about 10 minutes.
And I'm about to take my kids to school.
Yeah. Or everybody's asleep in our house and we're trying to make sure my dogs aren't barking or, nobody's coming out of bed. It's wild, but it's fun.
But it's been even a system of change for us because you've been hosting Management Unfiltered and now I'm throwing a curveball in it. We've had to go around our schedules and try to find a way to make it work. And so even though there's not always clarity in how that works, it's important to sit down. Like we were intentional early on to, like, I have this Google Doc in front of me right now of things that we want to talk about and some ideas and, if they're recorded or not, so we don't repeat ourselves. And it's important to have that system of change. So that way you have the clarity, you can actually execute it well, and then come out on the other side a lot better than where you really wanted to be. But ultimately, I was talking to my coach yesterday. He said the goal is who you become when you're, striving for the goal.
I like that. I could see that.
And I was like, you confused me a little bit, but I get where you're going.
The goal is a goal, but not the goal to be the goal to further score the goal.
Right. But it is who you become in that process. And we become better when we learn, when we grow, when we have hard conversations, when we do the difficult thing to get to another level.
You remind me, I think I've said this in the podcast before, but this is a great point. This came from a doctor I learned from when I was a dental technician. I was fabricating dental prosthetics. The doc told me, he's like, I had a breakthrough a long time ago. Flexing. Look at Kirk's big muscles, guys.
Oh my goodness.
Like if you see him, like you should be like, dude, you look so swole. All right, back on track. Talking to this doctor, he had a difficult case and he could not crack this patient. Like they were not satisfied with anything. Like he made this denture and it was absolutely beautiful. Occlusion was perfectly centric. The aesthetics, the video, like everything was perfect. And the patient's like, I hate it. And he just realized, he's like, the goal, like you said, is not the goal, right? His goal was creating a denture for this patient to have a smile. In the patient's mind, she wanted her life to physically change.
Yeah.
And he realized he wasn't asking the right questions. And he was blown away when he said, when you figure out asking the right things of where people want to be, that's when you're able to unlock the potential of overcoming these things. Do you know what she wanted to change in her life? She wanted her husband not to divorce her. Is that anything that we can control over a denture? No. But that's deep, right? Like that's how deep that prosthetic went. And that's heavy. But what we don't realize is there's so much more depth to that change that we don't realize. And then it went into this different conversation of, now I realize the different questions I need to ask my patients is, what in your life do you want to change? And that's what we can ask our team members is, hey, in working here and we're making these changes, what in your life here do you want to change? Hey, I want to be happier at work so I can be happier when I go home. There's so many things that can affect this and get so deep. But then he also had another point that I think is so important when it comes into change is the 1% club. And I take no credits for this, but a lot of people do this. And the whole idea behind the 1% club is you find one thing every single day to do 1% better. Well, I have my team every single day tell me, all right, what's your 1%? And the girl's like, well, I have a clipboard now. Now this is, I know I don't look that old, but this is a long time ago, before a lot of the technology we have in the practices, but they're still very prominent with like clipboard check-in, right? People are just handwriting their name on. And she's like, hey, today I found some floss, as funny as it sounds, and I tied it to the clipboard and tied a pen around it because the pen kept falling. She goes, I've got something ordered that'll be a lot more professional, but for today, this is what we're using. And as little as these things are, they're minimal changes that make bigger impacts in the future. Bouncing off that goal is not the goal. It's not. It's where you're going to be after that. What is the outcome of this change? And I think if we know that, when we go to our team and we make these changes, they're in a full understanding of how things are going to change for them if we do it effectively. And now they have skin in the game.
So everyone, the goal of the goal is not the goal. It's who you become in the process. And really focusing on your system of change. We're both systems people. If we can sit down and map it out and go from there, then it's way easier when you have clear set parameters and standards. When you can develop your leadership in this way, your practice will be a lot more successful, and not even successful, but easier. It'll be easier to manage. It'll be easier to change things. And like we've talked about, where the system of the schedule, we'll go over that in an episode as well. When you have that ability to just have clarity of this is how we like the schedule, this is what we want to do. And when you have new team members and it's very clear, like, hey, this is what we do, our schedules just drag and drop. So it's super easy for people to just, hey, this is what it is. And then you talk about the nuance and the parameters and changes and stuff. But I think this has been another great episode. I know it's been short, but I think that it's super important to get a good system of change. We talked about in the last episode, starting with apologizing to your team if you haven't been effective as a leader with a meeting, but really getting clear on what your standard is, what you're wanting to change and how you want to change it, why you want to change it, presenting that to the team, getting them to buy in, and then figuring out how to hold them accountable to that system is super important.
Guys, thank you so much for joining Kirk and I. We appreciate every listener on the show. If you can do us a huge favor, like, subscribe, share, take a minute, get on the YouTubes and just see the funny clips from, us actually chatting back and forth. It's a ton of fun. Future episodes, you can expect to see us, we're going to be recording some live at conferences that we'll be at. If we're out there, come see us, say hi, embarrass Kirk with his big muscles. I appreciate each and every one of you. We will see you next time on another episode of Management Unfiltered.